Hi guys, this is an instructional video just to help you with your part B of the infertility assessment task. You can find this in your schedule. You just need to click on it, download it. It is a template. Just click on the enable editing and you can type into it just like you have with other features that I've shown for you. So the first part of this, you'll need to refer to your Part A work that you should have probably completed by now. Down the left-hand side are definitions. In the middle are what those definitions are. You have to find one of those terms in the first column, match it to what it is in the definition and write it beside it in the third column. So that's pretty straightforward, I would hope, at this stage. All right, so let's go down to the next part. The next section relates to 3 articles that I've printed. So article 1 is just down below. You need to go down and have a read of it. Then there are 4 questions about it. Number 1 is actually asking you how valid is this particular information that they give. And for those of you who aren't sure what valid means, you need to have a read of this, and then you need to think about whether the information they have given you has anything about it that would be reliable. For example, who wrote it? Do they have any qualifications? Is this information based on proper scientific studies that have proven or disproven anything? So quite a bit of information that you need to think about and then make your comment based on it. Second one, look at each of the tips and just make a comment about whether most people could actually follow those tips. Number 3, whether each process is able to be successful for all. So would any of those actually be successful? What you need to consider there is the percentage of males and female babies that are born anyway. Would it make any difference to it? And then looking at the particular article, it came out of a practical parenting magazine. You can get it from most news agencies and discuss how successful these sort of magazines are and what information they provide and whether they're useful or not to people who buy them and read them. So there's your article. You just need to read through that. Article 2 relates to the next article underneath. There are only 3 questions. This is about a new procedure, slightly different to IVF. It's called IVM. So you've got to look at the article and tell me what the difference is. What could be the possible advantages of it over IVF? And then there are some issues around it that are the downsides or maybe the negative aspects of it. So you need to refer to your article. This article is broken up into sections, so you need to find the relevant bits, read it and answer the questions. Article 3 is about a particular syndrome. We've done some genetics before, but this is about Klinefelter's syndrome and a man who has had it. This article's close to my heart because my brother actually does have Klinefelter's syndrome and he had the same problem as this, but because he is much older, this procedure was not around, so it was of no use to him and he couldn't have his own child. So it's asking you to read the article, say what Klinefelter's syndrome is, and why couldn't they conceive naturally? Why couldn't they actually have a baby naturally? What procedures were used along with IVF that resulted in them being able to have children? So you need to write down what they are and also explain what those procedures involve. So go back to your notes. Should this type of medical intervention be used in this situation? So there's a little bit of a private comment here, whether you think in this situation it is appropriate for this couple to be able to access IVF. All right, number 3 little bit more complicated. So this is asking you to think about social, ethical and moral dilemmas. So what we believe as a society and individuals is the right or wrong thing to do. Because at the moment, there are laws in Australia that says, for example, that no, you cannot choose the sex of your baby. In other countries, it's okay, you can do that. In Australia, though, you have to go overseas if you want to make sure that you have a certain sex child. So this is a whole range of issues around whether we believe it's okay to do that sort of thing. So there are a number of YouTube videos. So you'll need to hover over the top and right click and open the hyperlink for each of those. So there you should be able to watch the clip. They're only fairly short clips. Then there are a number of questions related to them. So first of all is a general question about each of them. So it says, number 4, what are the ethical dilemmas evident in the YouTube clips above? So you write them in a question form. So for example, when you look at one of them, the dilemma or the issue for society to answer is, for example, should we allow gay men to access IVF to have children? Should that be legal in Australia or not, for example? So for each of those clips, I've done the sentence starter. You need to fill in the end of it. So gender selection clip. So the one about, should we be able to choose what sex of the child that we are going to have? So they will just be finished off to form a question. Then there are questions about each of the particular film clips. So the first one, which is referring to the gender selection clip again. So what is the law in Australia with regards to being able to select the gender of your child? When did it come into effect? And what reasons do they give for us having this particular law in Australia? Describe the process used to select the sex of a child. This procedure can cost the family more than $50,000. So could the average family be able to afford this huge amount of money? Even if we can do it in Australia and it costs money, doesn't mean that everybody could access this procedure. Or is it only those that are middle class to wealthy that could possibly do it? The Family Ties Part A clip looks at some other dilemmas. So what are the 2 options couples have if they have leftover embryos frozen? What happened with the first 2 families shown? What were the issues that came up there? Describe some of the emotions that these families had to go through. List all the issues that a third couple talk about when trying to make their decision about donating or destroying their extra embryos. Give your opinion about this dilemma and some reasons for your opinion. We actually have a staff member at school who had leftover embryos and they donated them to couples because they had as many children as they wanted, so they donated. The next clip is on the gay couples, and there was 2 different clips here. What are the 2 ways in which patients can obtain sperm? To help with the stress, what does the clinic recommend or provide? How can 2 males become parents? What would they need to organise in order for them to have a child? Why did the gay couple wait so long to have a child? Why did they choose a donor sperm? What's the process for choosing the sperm? And what were positive comments that they actually said about this particular process? Then we have a couple of clips that were about age limits on being able to access IVF. So at the moment, what are the guidelines currently in Australia with regards to women accessing IVF? What does the doctor recommend that we have laws developed in Australia about an age limit for accessing IVF? What is the male doctor's viewpoint about an age limit? And what are your thoughts on the Indian couple having a child in their 70s? Should this have been allowed or not? Different rules in different countries. Then we have another ethical dilemma. This clip is about something called PGD for chromosomal abnormalities. So what does it stand for? How important is knowing the number of chromosomes in the embryo? Explain the process. What does it select? And what are your thoughts about couples being able to access IVF to potentially eliminate genetic traits such as haemophilia? What if you wanted to check to see if your child had Down syndrome, for example? Should we be able to do that, or should we just take what we get? The very last one. When we did the introduction to infertility, I actually told you to go and have a look at a TED talk on something called about gender selection in relation to babies. Before that though, number 6 is a general question about IVF. Number 7 is about designer babies I was just talking about. You need to go back and have a look at that video if you haven't already, and then you're asked to give your thoughts about designer babies. In America, they are already doing this. Women are accessing sperm banks. They are looking at the characteristics of the men who've donated the sperm, and they are using that to select the father of their child. In the world, they know how to clone human beings already, but they're not allowed to do it. So have a look at the TED Talk, think about some of the issues he brings up, and then you are asked to write your comments. If you have any other issues, please email me. Don't use the Microsoft Teams because I don't access it, any conversations through that. So please email me questions, and don't stress. You have this week, and then it doesn't actually have to be in until the end of next week. So keep asking questions, and good luck.